my channel. So I am very pumped for the next couple of videos I'm going to be doing because after I finished making the silky dress, I kind of just had like this desire to make like more big dresses. So after one of you guys left a comment on one of my videos saying that you should make prom dresses, I thought that was a great idea, so I'm going to make 3 of them. 3. So the next 3 videos on my channel are going to be 3 different prom dresses because I wanted to give you guys a lot of different options if you guys want to make your own prom dress. And I know there aren't probably going to be very many proms this year, which there really shouldn't be because we should still be quarantining. But just because prom is canceled doesn't mean you shouldn't go gallivanting around in a big fluffy dress. So in case you guys are wondering, no, I am not going to a prom. I actually graduated last year and I was homeschooled, so I never went to a real prom. I went to one prom hosted by my theater company and I did make my own dress for it. I will show you guys a picture here. And it was very pretty, I really liked it. And I actually have already made a prom dress on my channel because I made the duct tape prom dress last year. And so after these videos, I'm going to have made a total of 5 different prom dresses and have only been to 1 prom. So I think that's kind of a power move on my end. So I'm going to kind of do these in a difficulty order, I think is what I'm planning on. The first one I'm going to make today is on the beginner side. It's a little bit simpler. It's still going to be really pretty though, don't worry about it. But it's going to be a little bit more beginner friendly. And then they're slowly going to get a little bit harder. And the last one I'm planning to get very technical on it, and it's going to be quite a challenge for myself, so I'm really pumped about it. But I'm honestly most excited to work on the middle one after this one because I bought the fabric and it's so pretty. So here is the fabric for the first prom dress. And this is 5 yards of a charmeuse satin, and I got this from Fabric Wholesale Direct. I'll link the fabric I bought down below. And I think I got it probably in the teal color, I'm not totally sure. But it's super pretty, I really like it. I think it looks really expensive. But I actually have never really made anything in this color, so I'm really excited to just try it out and see how I like it. And the design I'm going for today is going to be a pretty classic looking prom dress. It's going to have a straight top and a lace-up back because I love lace-up backs so much. And then I'm also going to put pockets into it because we can. That's honestly one of the best parts about making your own clothes is you can always add pockets. And the thing that's also kind of special about these videos is these dresses are actually going to be available for purchase after I make them. Assuming I don't get too attached to them. But so I will link my Depop down below and you can go and shop the dresses. But even if you have no sewing experience, I still greatly encourage you guys to just give them a shot because it's really, really fun. And I think that we should really just go get started. So because satin sheds like crazy, like I typically do, I just put a little notch down one of the sides and ripped it all the way down so that everything would be nice and even to start with. After that, I measured out all my fabric and cut out all the pieces. And because this dress has a lace-up back design, there's really not very many pieces to go with this at all. So these are the 2 front pieces, and because we're lining this with the satin fabric itself, I cut 2 center pieces and 4 side pieces. This piece is the really big pockets we're going to put in the dress, which is always very exciting. And because of the lace-up design, we need to cut obviously a lot of straps out. So these strips are about 2 inches, they don't really have to be exact, and I just cut one super long one all along the bottom edge of my fabric. And then I'll show you the skirt piece itself in just a second, but this is just a little waistband piece that you have to cut out. So basically you're just going to trace the sides and the top edge of the skirt, and then from the top edge cut about 2.5 inches all the way around. And you want to cut 4 of these out. And then lastly, here's the gigantic skirt piece. So it's just your typical circle skirt and is 50 inches all the way around. So to get the waist measurement, you basically start with a square piece of fabric, and then from one of the corners you just measure 7 inches all the way around, and then from there you measure 50 inches all the way around. And if the skirt needs to be bigger, you just start cutting the waist farther away from that corner. Sewing time! So the first step on this dress is of course assembling the bodice. So I'm going to take our front piece and 2 of our side pieces. I'm going to lay out our center piece nice and flat, and then I'm going to take one of our side pieces and I'm going to connect the top of this to the bigger side of the front. And I'm just going to pin this all the way down. And when you're sewing, you always want to put your pretty sides together. Now I'm going to pin the other piece to the other side, and now I'm going to sew down either side. And now I'm going to repeat those steps one more time with the remaining front and side pieces. Now that the bodice pieces are sewn, we need to sew up the strap. So I'm just going to take my very long strap piece and I'm going to fold it in half so that the pretty sides are together, and then I'm just going to stitch very close to the folded edge so we can get a very little thin strap. And now that we have stitched all down this edge, I'm just going to do a zigzag stitch next to the seam so that it'll help a little bit with fraying, and then I'm going to cut the edge pretty thin. And now that these are finally all sewn, we need to figure out how to turn them right side out. So normally to flip it right side out, I would just use this tool that I have, but this casing is so thin that I don't know if it'll work with how thick the top of this piece is. So what I'm going to do instead is I took this piece of yarn and I'm going to thread it through this little piece here, and I'm just going to tie it in place. And now on the other side of the yarn, I'm going to just make a very thick knot. And now I'm just going to thread this piece through the casing. And when the knotted end of the yarn reaches the top of the casing, I'm just going to do some stitches back and forth here to keep it in place. And now I'm just going to keep sliding that piece through. And when it gets to the top, I'm just going to help these pieces kind of fold over. And getting it started is always the hardest part. And now I'm just going to keep pushing this little rod through and helping the end over here turn right side out. And this is probably going to take a while. It took a very long time, but I finally have our super big little strap pieces. And now I'm going to cut this really long piece in half so we have 2 equal pieces. And just as a reference, I just measured this out for you guys. And so now each of my pieces is 77 inches. So these are very, very long. And I also made another little piece. This one's a lot shorter, and we're going to be using this one to make the loops on the back piece. And now we're going to take our bodice pieces again, and I'm going to take one of them and lay it down flat. And then I'm going to take our super long straps and I'm going to pin them directly on the seam. And now I'm going to take the other 2 pieces that I made and I'm going to cut it into 6 little pieces. And I'm going to pin them to the edge of the side piece. And you want to make sure that the looped part is facing in. And so I'm just going to evenly space out 3 of them on either side. And now that all of these pieces are pinned, I'm going to take the second bodice piece and lay it on top. And I'm going to pin everything together. And now I'm going to sew all around this piece except for the bottom. While I'm sewing, I'm also planning to take about 1 inch off of the top edge. Now if you turn everything out, we have a basically finished bodice. This is actually so cute that I might end up making another one that's just like a shirt like this. I'm kind of obsessed with it. And I just took the straps and I laced them crisscross around the little loops that we made, and now it's a cute little lace up back. The only problem with this design right now is when I wear it, it kind of makes these like bunches over here that I'm not a big fan of. And the way to fix that is by adding a little bit of boning. This will make it just a lot more professional, which of course we're always going for. And this is some boning I got off of Amazon. I'll put it in the description in case you guys want to use it. And it just comes in a roll and you basically just cut some off and iron it out. And before you insert your boning, it's really important that you round out all of the top edges because you don't want the boning to poke through your fabric because it's just not ideal. Now on the back side, I'm just going to insert this in between the layers here. And I'm very carefully going to stitch this onto the back. So I already did one side, and so I basically just sewed down either side of it. It doesn't have to be super pretty because it's on the back. And this just keeps the boning in place. So I'm just going to very carefully open this up and stitch down either side of this boning as far as I can get it, which will be a little bit tricky, but just do your best. And now this will lay nice and flat against our backs while we're wearing it. Skirt time! So the first thing actually to do on the skirts is the pockets. So I'm going to grab all of those pieces. This here is the top edge of the skirt, so this is one of the skirt sides. And we want our pockets to start 6 inches down. So I'm just going to mark this and put a pin here. And then I'm going to take one of our skirt pieces and I'm going to start it right where this pin is. I'm just going to pin these right sides together and then sew right along this edge here. And I'm going to do the same on the other side of the front skirt and then down the sides of the back pieces as well. Also, I forgot to mention it, but the reason my hand is like so beat up is because I ate it on my longboard earlier this week. It's a lot better now, but that's why it looks a little beat up. Next, it's time to sew up both of the side seams, and it's really important that we turn these pocket pieces out. So I'm just going to pin this on my floor because it's a little bit easier, and then I'll show you guys exactly how to sew around the pocket pieces. The way we're going to sew around these sleeves is we're going to push all of these seams up. We don't want them like this because then we're going to sew on top of them. I'm going to start sewing from up here, go all the way down until I reach where we started sewing the pocket. Then I'm going to stop about 1 centimeter into it, making sure to sew a little bit in from where we actually sewed the seam. And then I'm going to cut my thread and start again from down here, again about 1 centimeter in, and then I'm going to sew all the way down. This will make it so that we actually have like a place to put our hand through. Right now we have the opening to our pocket sewn, but right now the pocket itself is just kind of a black hole, which if you're anything like me is what happens to my pockets in a month or so anyway, but we should probably still sew this up. I'm going to put the two pocket layers together, and I'm basically just going to sew around the perimeter, starting and stopping from the seam that we just sewed. And now our pockets are actually useful. And we have a very big skirt piece now, so I'm going to take the back pieces and put the unsewn edge together, and I'm going to sew down this starting about 10 inches from the top all the way down. And after a quick dance break in the now very big skirt, I zigzagged all the raw edges of the skirt to help with all the fraying issues I was having. Now it's time to put it all together. I just tried on the bodice and I marked where I wanted the skirt to attach to, and then I also cut my boning down so that I wouldn't sew into it, and I rounded out those edges. And now I'm basically just going to mark the center of the bodice, the center of the skirt, and I'm going to put them together and sew right across it. And again, I'm just going to zigzag around the waistline and then trim that seam down. We still have to finish up this little back part of the waistband, because this is obviously the part that goes over the lace up, and the way we're going to do that is by using these little waistband pieces we cut out earlier. So I'm just going to hem the bottom edge and one of the side pieces, and then I'm going to lay that on the seam that we just sewed towards the bodice. And when you're lining it up, the hemmed edge of the little waistband piece should start at the side seam for the skirt. And you're going to stitch it right on top of the waistband seam that we already sewed. And to just keep this little flap down, I'm just going to do a few stitches right on the side seam of the skirt just to hold it down. The next thing to do on the dress is to add an invisible zipper going down the back. And I recently found out that on Amazon, you can order a packet of 40 invisible zippers, and guess how much this cost me? Guess how much? $9. I am losing my mind over this because one invisible zipper at Joann's is literally like $3. So I got this whole pack for the price of like 3 zippers. Like I'm losing my mind over this. So I just took this blue one and I ironed open the edge like you should do before you start sewing an invisible zipper. And then I also marked the top because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to know exactly where to start and stop. So I'm just going to lay the back part flat, and I also just went ahead and basted this little lining piece down. And I'm going to open up my zipper, and I'm going to take the left side first, and I'm going to fold it onto the back, and then I'm going to pin the tops down. And after trying it on, I realized I needed the waist to come in quite a bit more, so I'm just going to start it pretty far in, and then make it go all the way down to where we started sewing the skirts together. And now I'm just going to very carefully sew right next to where the zipper is. And there's like kind of a tiny little baby line right here. And now I'm going to make sure I do that the exact same way on the other side. It's also really important to make sure that you don't accidentally twist up your zipper while sewing the other side. And again, I'm just going to zigzag and trim those edges. And to finish up this top little part here, I'm just going to fold it down and do a few stitches across right here. And then lastly on the zipper, my zipper is obviously way longer than what I needed it for. So I'm just going to do a few stitches here to hold the zipper in place and then just chop off the excess. And the very last step on this dress is to finally hem it. So I just tried on the dress with heels and marked where I wanted the finished length to be, and marked out where I wanted the finished length to be. Nailed it. And then I cut it leaving a seam allowance, and then I just folded over that edge twice, and then I just put a crap ton of pins all the way around it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a regular straight stitch. And this dress is officially done! It is so stunning, I can't wait to show you guys. And here's the finished dress! I know you guys might not remember because of how elegant and beautiful and expensive this dress looks, but this dress is actually insanely easy to make. Especially for something so formal, once you put all the pieces together, there's really not very many of them, and it's a pretty easy dress to adjust to other sizes as well. Which, if you guys need help with that, I have a video on my tips for adjusting my patterns, so I really do hope you guys give this dress a go. I honestly just couldn't stop twirling in this dress because I just felt so pretty in it, and I get really excited whenever I have a really big skirt on. Also the fact that this dress has pockets, like, it just makes it like 20 times better. And yes, that is me demonstrating my prom dance moves. If you guys decide to give this dress a try, I always love to see your creations. You can send them to me on Instagram, and stick around to see the other 2 prom dresses I'm going to be making for you guys. Like always, there's new content on Fridays, and I hope to see you guys there. Bye guys!